No engineer has ever said, I love using Jira. That sentence is not a hot take. It's not a Twitter joke. It is the single most repeated sentiment in software product development across the last 2 decades. And the fact that it is still true 24 years after Jira was built is one of the most interesting product puzzles I have ever tried to understand. A company built $100 million business with $35,000 in marketing for a product that competes directly with one of the most entrenched enterprise software tools in history. That's not a growth hack. That's not a viral loop. That's what happens when you build something so good that people carry it between jobs like a habit they can't shake. This video is about how they did it, and more importantly, what every PM building in 2026 can steal from it. To understand why linear exists, you have to understand why Jira is the way it is. Not because Atlassian made bad decisions. They did not. Jira is the way it is because it was solving a real problem. In 2002, when Jira was built, software development was genuinely organized around handoffs. Product managers understood user problems, engineers understood code. Between them was a gap of context, trust, and priority. Jira was the handoff mechanism. It gave the PM a place to document intent. It gave the engineer a place to pick up work. It gave the manager a dashboard to prove something was happening. Here's the trap. Over 20 years, the complexity started to look like sophistication. The more process a system could absorb, the more enterprise ready it seemed. Teams hired Jira admins. Companies ran 3-day Jira training programs. I have personally sat in a 2-hour meeting about whether a field should be required or optional. The overhead was no longer filling the gap. The overhead was the gap. There's a framework in product management called jobs to be done. The core idea, people don't buy products, they hire them to do a job. And when a product stops doing that job well enough, they fire it and hire something else. Jira was hired to do one job, help teams coordinate what gets built and when. Somewhere along the way, Jira started doing a different job. Help managers create the appearance of coordination. Reports, dashboards, velocity charts, burn down graphs, all the paperwork of software development without the actual work. The engineers noticed, they always notice. I want to notice something about that sentence. Not the product they built, the people who built it. Kari Saarinen is a designer. He was the founding designer at Coinbase and then principal designer at Airbnb. We're sitting with Jira open all day and building for fast-moving product teams. The frustration that became linear began. He thinks about cognitive load, friction, emotional response to software. Thomas Artman is an engineer. He spent years at Uber building infrastructure for systems that cannot fail. He thinks about latency, reliability, what happens at 3 a.m. when everything breaks. A designer and an engineer building a tool for engineers produces a very specific thing, a product that is technically rigorous and obsessively crafted, both at once, not as a compromise, as a philosophy. They made 3 bets, and understanding these bets is the most useful thing you'll take from this video because these are not just linear bets. They are a template for how opinionated, craft-driven products get built. Bet 1. Speed is a product feature, not performance is a non-functional requirement, not we should optimize later. Speed. Page loads under 100 milliseconds. Actions that complete before your finger lifts off the key is itself part of what makes a product respectful. Slow software is a statement. Our backend constraints matter more than your time. Linear chose to say the opposite and built the architecture to prove it before they had product market fit. Bet 2. Opinionated software beats flexible software. This is the bet that most product teams are terrified to make because flexible sounds safe. Flexible sounds like you're serving more users. Flexible sounds like you're leaving the door open. But here is what flexible actually produces. Every team invents their own workflow. Workflows diverge, chaos compounds. 6 months later, no one understands the system, and you need an admin to maintain it. Linear's founders believed there is one really good way to run a software team, and they built that way into the product. Bet 3. The best teams don't hand off. They have shared context. This is the deepest one. If you hire for alignment and build a culture of shared understanding, you don't need a complex handoff mechanism. You need a fast, clean execution tool. Linear was built for those teams, and implicitly, it was built to make other teams aspire to work like those teams. Linear has 5 decisions that are worth reading carefully. Decision 1. Keyboard first design. This is not a minor UX choice. It is a statement about who this product was built for. Engineers live on keyboards. They navigate terminals, editors, command line interfaces, environments where the mouse is almost an afterthought. When you design a tool where the mouse is the primary input, you are signaling. This was designed by someone who thinks visually, not operationally. Linear chose to speak the native language of the user they wanted. Every common action has a single letter shortcut. The command palette opens in one keystroke, and crucially, it searches your local database, not a server. So it is instant. The keyboard is not the advanced feature. The keyboard is the product. Decision 2. Local first architecture. Most web applications work the same way. You click, a request travels to a server. The server queries a database, the database returns data. The server packages it and sends it back. You see the result. Every action has latency baked in. Jira has 2 to 4 seconds of latency on many page loads. Linear stores your entire active issue database in your browser's IndexedDB. When you search locally, not a server. When you change your status, it changes in a browser first and syncs to the cloud in the background. This is called local first architecture, and it is not just an engineering choice, it is a philosophical pre-commitment. They built this sync engine before they had product market fit, before they knew it would pay off. They committed to speed at the infrastructure level so that no future product decision could accidentally make it slow. Here is the frontier PM concept to hold on to. Your architecture encodes your values. If you say speed matters, but your infrastructure does not reflect that, your product will drift towards slowness over time. Linear logged in speed as a constraint, not as a goal, as a constraint. Decision 3. Write issues, not user stories. This one is different because it's a product company explicitly pushing back against a 25-year-old industry convention, the linear method. Their published product philosophy says, don't write user stories. As a user, I want to, is a format designed to bridge a gap. The gap between a PM who understands users' needs and an engineer who might not fully trust the PM's judgment. The format exists to make intent legible across a trust deficit. Linear's position is blunt. If your team needs that format to understand why something should be built, you have a shared context problem, not a ticket format problem. Fix the context. Write issues that are small, specific, immediately actionable. Publishing this as part of your product philosophy is a bold move. It tells potential users, we have a worldview. If you disagree with it, this probably isn't your tool. That is not a product limitation, that's a filter. And filters in product and in positioning are underrated by almost every team I have ever seen build a product. Decision 4. No infinite customization. Jira will let you configure nearly everything. Custom workflows, custom screens, custom permission schemes, custom notification rules. An entire industry of Atlassian admins exists because configuring Jira properly is a full-time job. Linear gives you cycles, projects, and initiatives. That is the model. You cannot redesign it. This infuriates teams who have built intricate Jira workflows over years. It delights teams starting fresh who want to ship something before they spend 3 weeks on setup. But here's the deeper PM insight. Customization creates debt. Every custom field someone adds is a future cost. The person who added it eventually leaves. No one else knows what it does. No one deletes it because deletion is scary. The system becomes a museum of old decisions. Linear structure prevents this accumulation. Opinionated software isn't just a user experience preference, it's a form of technical debt prevention built at the product level. Decision 5. Invisible AI. In 2025 and 2026, every product tool added AI, and almost all of them added it the same way: a button, a sidebar, a chatbot, a generate with AI prompt on a text field. Linear did something harder. They built AI into the workflow so that you don't have to go find it. A Slack message becomes a linear issue automatically. Incoming bugs get triaged and assigned without a human touching them. Linear agent reads your code base and can now write fixes. None of this requires you to click OpenAI mode. The calmer interface, design, refresh, which Linear shipped at the same time they launched the biggest AI feature set. This was the signal. They added their most powerful AI capabilities ever, and the product got quieter. That is not a coincidence. That is a product management team that understands AI as infrastructure and not a feature. Issue tracking is dead. This essay is the most important product document Linear ever published, not because it announces features, because it changes what Linear says it is. Let's unpack why this matters for product people. The original job of a project management tool was coordination, helping people who need to work together actually work together. Linear spent 5 years building the best possible tool for that job and won. But Carey is making a different argument now. He's saying the nature of software development is changing, not improving, changing. And the change is so fundamental that the old job description no longer fits the new reality. Here's the shift. In the old model, the bottleneck was execution. Engineering team time was scarce. You managed it with careful prioritization and structured handoffs. In the new model, execution is becoming abundant. Agents write code, agents triage bugs, agents route work. The bottleneck is shifting. from execution to judgment, deciding what to build, understanding why it matters, knowing when to stop. And agents need context to operate. They're not mind readers. They become useful through shared, structured, and accumulated context. Who decided what the customer said, why this initiative exists, what failed last quarter, and why. That context does not live in a coding agent's session memory. It lives in the system the whole team uses together over time. These are not pilot numbers. These are not a beta program. These are production metrics from Linear's own customer base. The transition is already happening, and Linear made their fourth bet that the company which becomes the context layer for human and agent software development will build the most defensible moat in the history of productivity software. Not because they have the best AI model, but because they have years of structured team context that no AI model can recreate from scratch. Notice the progression. This isn't a company that shipped an AI feature. This is a company that has been executing a deliberate architectural thesis over 18 months, each release making agents more capable by giving them more context. Triage intelligence. Agents understand your patterns. Linear agents can act on Slack signals. Code intelligence, agents understand your code base. Coding sessions, agents write the fix. The logic is compounding. Each layer makes the next layer more powerful. That's not a feature roadmap, that is a platform strategy. If agents handle triage, planning, routing, and coding, and Linear's number suggest they already are, the PM's job shifts radically. You are no longer the person who writes the most tickets or runs the tightest sprint. You're the person who holds the why, the intent, the judgment about what matters and what does not, the taste about what is good enough and what is not. Carey wrote this in his essay. People can spend more time on intent, judgment, and taste, and less time managing the mechanics of the process. That's not a consolation prize for product managers, that's a promotion. The PM who understands this transition and builds towards it will be irreplaceable. The PM who keeps optimizing sprint velocity metrics is building the wrong skill for the next 5 years. Let's talk about how Linear actually grew, because this is where it gets philosophically interesting. Most B2B SaaS companies grow through sales, cold outreach, sales development representatives, enterprise deals, marketing qualified leads, demand generation, content funnels. Linear grew through none of that, and they didn't grow through a viral referral program either. No invite a friend, get free seats, no gamified growth loop. They grew through something harder to build and more powerful when it works: professional identity. An engineer at a startup uses Linear. They love it. Specifically, they develop keyboard muscle memory. The shortcuts become motor skills. They change jobs. They bring Linear with them, not because the new company asked for it, because switching tools mean relearning how your hands work. That's a surprisingly high switching cost. This is a professional network growth loop, not product virality. Professional identity. The tool you use every day becomes part of how you think about doing your job. When you move to a new job, you recreate your environment. Keyboard shortcuts, color scheme, editor plugins, issue tracker. Three specific switching costs are embedded in Linear's design, and I want to be clear, these are not accidents. These are product decisions that compound over time. Motor memory. Keyboard shortcuts become as automatic as touch typing. The moment you sit down in Jira after 6 months of Linear, you feel it immediately. Your hands reach for shortcuts that don't exist. Team vocabulary. We will add that to the next cycle. File a triage for it. That's an initiative, not a project. Linear's terminology becomes the team's shared language. Migrating away isn't just a data migration, it's a vocabulary change. Integration depth. GitHub, Sentry, Figma, Slack, all wired into Linear. By the time all four are connected, Linear is the connective tissue of the entire engineering stack. Removing it requires rewiring every integration simultaneously. And then there's the curation play. Linear's customer list is a product decision, not a sales list. They did not chase enterprise logos. They won Cursor, the fastest growing AI coding tool, Ramp, the most admired fintech in startup circles, Coinbase, the iconic crypto company, Cars24, a global marketplace company that renewed their multi-year Jira contract in October, then treated it as a sunk cost and switched to Linear within weeks because Linear was that much better. When a founder building their own startup sees that Cursor runs on Linear and Cursor is the company they want to emulate, the decision is essentially made. That is social proof as product strategy, and it costs $35,000 in marketing to make it work because the credibility comes from the customers, not from the ads. Every PM teardown ends the same place, the backlog. Not the product backlog, the analytical one. The questions you have been sitting with since the first slide. What's actually missing? What would you put on the roadmap? And what is the thing the company probably doesn't want to say out loud? Three things to cover, and all three matter. Linear's gaps are interesting because they're not random. They all trace to the same person. Gap 1. Reporting is genuinely underpowered. Power users are exporting to Google Sheets for analytics work. A 1.25 billion product development tool sending its users to a spreadsheet is not a static choice. It is a gap. Gap 2. The non-technical user wall. Linear chose engineers and chose them hard. But companies don't run on engineering alone. Marketing, operations, sales. They all have requests that need to become issues. Today, the answer is Linear for engineers and Notion or Asana for everyone else. That seam creates friction. Friction creates opportunity for competitors. Gap 3. Mobile. For a brand built on craft, where every millisecond and every pixel is considered, mobile is visibly second class. For an on-call engineer at midnight, that is not a minor complaint. The pattern. Linear optimized so hard for one ICP that those same optimizations are now creating ceiling constraints as they grow upmarket. Every gap traces back to the same source. Here is what we would put on the backlog. Linear is built for engineers, issues, cycles, projects. These map to how an engineer thinks about work. But a PM operates one level above that. Roadmaps, feedback synthesis, launch planning. The signal chain from customer conversation to shipped feature and back. All the pieces exist in Linear. Customer requests, initiatives, projects. What is missing is the closed loop. The moment a customer who filed a request automatically learns that the thing they asked for has shipped, that notification doesn't exist in Linear today. The loop is not closed. It sounds small. It is not. That closed loop is what makes PMs and customers feel the process is working. Without it, Linear is a very fast, very clean execution tool, but not yet the full PM system it is positioning itself to become. The pieces exist, they just are not connected in a loop a PM would naturally see. Now for the spicy take. Linear's most famous customer is Cursor. Cursor is on their customer page. Cursor is at their conferences. Cursor is the company every developer tool startup in 2026 is trying to emulate. Cursor is also building the thing that could make Linear irrelevant. Not because Cursor is building a project management tool, they are not, but Cursor is an AI-assisted integrated development environment that is getting better every single month at understanding what you are building, which files matter, what has been recently shipped, what the current bug context is. That is product context. The same kind of context Linear is trying to own. Here is the structural question. If a coding agent accumulates enough context inside the IDE from your code base, your Git history, your PR comments, your Slack threads, does it still need to route through Linear to understand what to build next? Does the agent need the issue or does it need the intent? What you are looking at is a race, and it is not about features. On one side, Cursor, Cloud Code, next-gen IDEs. They accumulate context from where the code lives. Code base, Git history, PR comments, Slack threads, and they're improving every month. The context window is widening. Memory is becoming persistent. On the other side, Linear. Accumulating context from where decisions are made. Structured issues with the reasoning behind them. Team patterns, customer feedback, business logic, years of compounding timestamped team memory that no single ID session can replicate. Linear is currently ahead on team context. The race bars are not close, but they're moving. Session memory in coding agents is improving fast. Linear's window is 18 months, not because Atlassian will catch them, Atlassian won't, but if Cursor or Cloud Code or whatever comes next develops persistent structured memory that spans teams and time, the case for a separate coordination layer weakens. That is the bet everyone in this space should be watching. Here is what Linear is actually selling. Not issue tracking, not sprint management, not even AI triage. What they're selling is a team graph, years of structured context about who knows what, why each decision was made, what the customer said 18 months ago that led to this initiative, what the engineering team fought about, and how it resolved. A coding agent in a single session cannot build that. It starts every session from zero. Linear starts every agent session with everything the team has ever known. And here is what makes it compound. Every week a team uses Linear, the graph gets richer. Every issue closed, every initiative linked to a customer request, every decision timestamped. It accumulates. No alternative can catch up without years of the same data. The PM question at the center of this is sharper than it looks. Make the team graph so rich that agents choose Linear as the source of truth before they figure out they don't need an issue tracker. Linear is winning the race. The watch. Compound context faster than agent, memory systems improve. That is the only bet that matters now. Every product manager building 2026 should sit with three things from this story. One, your architecture is your values. Speed, craft, opinion. These don't happen by accident. They require pre-commitment at an infrastructure level before you know they'll pay off. Two, the best switching costs are not locks, they're habits. Motor memory, team vocabulary, integration depth. Build products that become part of how people think about doing the job, and migration becomes cultural, not just technical. Three, the PM who thrives in the agent era is the one who gets better at intent, judgment, and taste, not the one who optimizes execution metrics. If agents are doing more of the building, the human who decides what to build and why it matters becomes more valuable, not less. Linear understood all three of this before most of us had started asking the questions. That is what makes it worth studying.